Good day, guys. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to sew a simple straight gown, but this particular one would have fringe by the side for paparazzi's sake. So you need to check my earlier videos to see how I taught people how to measure correctly. So the hip is the biggest part, the hip divided by 4 and your fabric divided by 2. So for this particular person, the hip is 44. 44 divided by 4 will give us 11. So I'll divide my fabric into 2 and make sure it's like 11 inches. Afterwards, I would measure the length of the gown wherever I want the length to reach. So that is what I'm doing exactly here. After measuring the sides, using the hip measurement to divide into 4, I'm then measuring my length. I'm trying to arrange my fabric well. So normally when I want to do my measurement, I always had like 1 or 1.5 inches, but for this one I am not adding because it is a stretchy material. After taking the length, the next thing I'll be doing is my shoulder to my my waist. My shoulder to my waist is 15 inches. That's my upper waist. Shoulder to the upper waist is 15 inches. The next is the neck. I use 3 inches for the width, that how wide I want it to be. And for the lowness, I just use 1 inch because I want it to have a bishop collar. So when you're cutting bishop collars, you don't make the lowness of your neck, you don't make it very low. 1 or 1.5 inches is enough, so it stays high. So the next measurement is my back divided by 2, which will give us 7 inches. My back is 14 divided by 2 will give us 7 inches. Next thing is my armhole. My armhole is 16 inches divided by 2, which is 8 inches exactly. So afterwards, I would also be measuring my shoulder to my okay, I already measured my shoulder to my upper waist, which is what I just did. Initially I did 15. I realized it was 16 inches. Then I'm also going to do my shoulder to my lower waist. My lower waist is 20 inches from my shoulder. Then afterwards, I'm also going to do my shoulder to my hip line, which is 24 or 24.5. I would also do that. Afterwards, I'm also going to be doing my what else? Okay, my shoulder to I was trying to adjust the armhole part very well. Remember, the armhole is your round armhole divided by 2. Your round armhole divided by 2, which is what I just did. Then you take your curve. I like to use my curve. Some people use ruler. If you have the ruler, you can use the ruler to achieve your armhole. But if you don't have the ruler, you should know how to get your inverted curve, like you're writing a C. Then my shoulder to my breast point, which is 11 inches too. Then I start measuring the circumference. The breast divided by 4. Remember, your measurement will be divided by 4 and your fabric will be divided by 2. So the bust is 40. 40 divided by 4 would give us 10 inches. Then I move to my under bust. Whatever it is, I got 9 inches when I divided the measurement by 4. Then I'll move to my waist, which is the upper waist. Whatever it is, I'm also going to be dividing it by 4. Which is what I just did here. Whatever the measurement was, I divided by 4. Then I go to my lower waist too and divide my lower waist round circumference by 4. Then I move to my hip and divide the hip by 4, of course. Then I always measure my shoulder to my lower hip too. You need to check my previous video to see the complete way to take your gown measurement. Then after my shoulder to my lower hip, I just give it a shape. I want it to be a bit fitted below. So I'm going to give it a shape using my tailoring chalk. So that's what I'm just doing, giving it a shape beneath. I want it to be like pencil down to the lower waist, to the lower hip rather, to the and to the hip, then to the lower waist, to the under breast, and to the bust. So we have it already. It's already looking structured. So the next thing I want to do is to cut out, because I already have them chalked out. So I'm cutting the neck part first. This is me cutting the neck part. After cutting the neck part, then I move to the armhole. So I made the armhole, I made it enter a bit because I want it to show off sleeves. I don't want it to be fully covered. So I took it in. After measuring my 7 inches, I had to take it into like 5 inches at that upper part so it will show sleeves a bit. So from there I cut following the shape that I already chalked out, which is what I'm doing exactly. Just take your time to follow out. It's very easy to do. You can check how I did my measurements and lay your fabric down, divide it into 2 and divide your measurements into 4. The hip is usually the biggest part, but for some people it might be their stomach, but most times it is the hip that is the biggest part. So if you can get those are the basics. The only thing you need is to follow this instruction as I have done. So this fabric was not enough below. I just made sure I trimmed what I needed, so the excess ones were not needed, and it was not even enough. So I just trimmed this to the part where I knew it was enough. So this is the front of the dress already. We are done with the front. So the next thing we are going to be doing is to cut the back. When you cut the front, it makes it easier for you to even cut the back of your dress. Alright, so after cutting the front, you place the front, you fold your remaining fabric into 2 again. And when I mean into 2, you are folding using the measurement of the hip, which is the biggest part. Don't forget. So you fold your fabric into 2 again and lay, but you make it extra than the front one you already cut, and lay the front one on top of it. Like I said, you make it extra. So if you look at this side, it's a bit bigger than what I have earlier on. So that's, I added 1.5 inches, which is for zip. It's called the zip allowance. So I added it and laid it straight. After just adding that extra part, that is all you need. You just cut out the exact thing as I'm cutting it here. You cut out the exact thing. You are not adding anything. Just cut out the exact thing, aside from leaving 1.5 inch at the other side, which is for zip allowance. For people who want to put zip for clothes that would have slits, if you want it to have slits, then I cut it under. I had to reduce the length because my fabric was not enough. As you can see, one part is longer than the other. So to make it even, I had to cut everything to make it equal. Afterwards, okay, I realized that it was not the same at that 1.5 zip allowance I left. So I had to arrange it well, and I had to retrim it. You have to be careful and make sure your dress, your clothes, rather, alternative dress, is properly laid before cutting, unless it would affect you when sewing and you realize your clothes is not balanced. So after cutting that pattern, I realized everything is okay. You see, this extra 1.5 inches are left for the slit. I am going to divide it equally, because I'm going to be joining it together with my machine a bit if I want to put zip, if I want to put slit. But for this particular cloth, it will not have slit, so I'm closing up the slit part till I get to the zip part. If you want to use a short zip, a long zip, but it's mostly preferable to use a long zip for your gown so you can easily wear it. So that's all. I will show you the sewing process.